Yo. What's up? What's going on, everybody? What's good? We are here. We're definitely live here with the Midweek Report for August 28th, 2024, man. We got, a number of things here we're going to be talking about here in the sport of boxing. I know that we got some action that is pending here this week. Want to, also share a schedule here that I, was able to get a couple of days ago as I was in camp there for one great trainer, that I've been speaking with for some good time now. So if you missed it there through the social media apps there, particularly the one over there in Twitter, that one, Twitter or X, whatever. So I'll be sharing that as well, and then go up over the upcoming boxing schedule for this weekend, going into the following week. As of course we have the undisputed super bantamweight championship on the line on, I think what is it going to be, Tuesday? So I'm going to be talking about that as well. But we got the main topic at hand that has been in the news pretty much for the past week, as we're looking like we're getting a little bit close to a unification bout taking place. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Shout out to Clinton in the building, man. Yeah, it's Pacheco Fight Week. We're going to be touching on Diego Pacheco versus Marciej Sulecki here in a little bit, because, that's something there within the super middleweight division that I'm looking out for. So, yeah, I'm really have an eye on that, as you got Pacheco there as one of those contenders at super middleweight. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to get into that here a little bit, but main topic at hand, of course, you got two undefeated fighters in the welterweight division, two champions in the welterweight division. The IBF champion, Jaron Ennis. You got the WBO champion, Brian Norman Jr. Now, looks like, they've been having talks back and forth to try to work out something in order to arrange for a unification bout there for the IBF and WBO welterweight titles. Now, you've had some conversations, coming up from both Jaron Ennis and Brian Norman Jr. Shout out to my guy, of course, Jamil of YSM Sports Media. There's been, talking with both those guys. Of course, he's, right there with Jaron Ennis, right? And, of course, he had what it was a couple of weeks ago where some folks were like saying, hey, maybe Jaron Ennis will have a defense against a supposed mandatory challenger in Karen Chikadzian. Like, come on, man. Karen Chikadzian, no, I was telling y'all, no, that ain't gonna happen. That wasn't gonna happen. So now we have some talks that's been going on between the camps of Jaron Ennis and Brian Norman Jr. Now, we've had shout out to our guy there, Matt of Brunch Boxing, that had Brian Norman Sr. on in a conversation for pretty much 4 days ago or so, right? And Brian Norman Sr., kind of like broke things down in that particular interview. You could find it there on Twitter, there through Matt Brunch Boxing. But some things up there from Brian Norman Sr. is like, one, he said, like, listen, both Jaron Ennis and Brian Norman Jr., they're ready for the fight. They want to fight. They want to make the fight happen. It's pretty much about the financials, right? And that, there's one particular party that, is kind of sketchy about, the details for this fight to take place. Looks like they got the date, they got the venue there, you know what I'm saying? Looking at November 9th in Philly, because, they had like other proposals, like they had something where it could have been in Vegas. Man, I hope they don't lock it down for no Vegas. And they had it in Philly. So difference is like, if they were going to have it in Vegas, it's a certain price for the fight that happened in Vegas. And if they're going to have it in Philly, Brian Norman Sr. was saying like, listen, it's Boot's hometown. So y'all going to have to, give us a little bit more slack on this, So once they pretty much said that, then, as he says, Matchroom went quiet. So as of 3 or 4 days ago or so, he hadn't really heard that much about it. But, I'm thinking that, I feel like you still have a good amount of time to go ahead and make that fight happen. You know what I'm saying? Here we are, August 28th, and we're talking about what, November? Like, come on, man. It's about like another 3 months or so. So I say, man, y'all can go ahead and iron things out, make things happen, do the do, and hey, the earlier y'all get this thing done, the better, that folks can, talk about the fight, get buzz about the fight and everything. We saw what happened. If they're gonna have it in Philly, we saw what happened with Boots Ennis against David Avangian, and how that particular fight was successful in the box office there at the Wells Fargo Center. So now you have another big fight at Wells Fargo. If they're able to pull this off, you could get yourself a good gate out of this fight. Unification fight, two young guys there. Of course, you got Boots Ennis there at 27 years old, undefeated, 32-0. You got Brian Norman Jr. there at 23 years old, at 26-0. And this is something where, we said Brian Norman Sr. said that, hey, he's confident that he could, have his son get there in the ring and be able to match Boots Ennis here speed for speed or whatever it is, and has what it takes in order to beat Jaron Boots Ennis. But first off, the fight has to be agreed to, has to be signed. We have to have that date. We have to have that venue. And, man, if they're looking at November 9th, man, I'm like, oh, come on, man. Listen, we already got what's going down in Norfolk. They're going to be pretty much announcing that thing, Keyshawn Davis versus Gustavo Lemos in Norfolk on November 8th. And then you go turn around and have this fight in Philadelphia on November 9th. Oh, man, listen, I'm gonna have to be, driving back and forth, man. Hey, man, listen, these gas prices killing us, man. These gas prices killing us. And then when we can have something like this happen in November, oh, man, I'm gonna be shutting out some dough with the gas on that weekend, man. You know what I'm saying? Big ups to my guy, brother Joseph Heron. It says, give it evening there. Thanks once again for your Saturday at the show in San Antonio. There, yeah, man. I was, out there in San Antonio on Saturday there, and that was pretty much on the fly, y'all. I was doing some commentary there alongside Brother Joseph Heron on that fight card that happened in San Antonio, right? So hey, I was able to, do the do there to, have that go down, so to speak. So I was able to, work there on the fly. I was able to, be a commentator and everything like that. And that was a, really good experience right there. You know what I'm saying? You did have, Robert Guerrero III that was on that card. That was up against Jesus Cortinas. This was part of the AAA promotions card. Man, I was trying to find where the flyer was. I thought I saw the flyer around somewhere, but that thing should be it should be still available there on the local affiliate there in San Antonio. So it should be able to still catch it out there. But yeah, back to the thing here, conversation with Jaron Boots Ennis and Brian Norman Jr. I mean, you got, of course, Brian Norman was able to defeat Giovanni Santillan in Santillan's hometown there for, at the time, the interim welterweight championship. And then with, of course, Terrence Bud Crawford going up to 154 pounds and challenging for the WBA title there at 154 and winning that, and also getting the WBO interim title at 154, then that elevated Brian Norman to be the WBO world champion right now. So you got him standing as WBO champion at 26-0 with 20 of those wins by way of knockout. Like I said, here a few months ago, he had that brutal bout against Giovanni Santillan, but was able to get a big knockout victory there over Giovanni Santillan there for his 20th knockout victory. And of course, you got Jaron Boots Ennis there, the pretty much the talk of the welterweight division at this particular point. Now 32-0, 29 of those wins by way of knockout. Dispatched David Avangian within 5 rounds. Had got himself in the groove after about a couple of rounds, and then by round 3, it was pretty much like all boots Ennis. Like there wasn't really, much that David Livingston could really do there to affect boots Ennis in that particular bout. So he got that in there, 5-round stoppage, and he was just, looking for those unification fights, whether it was going to be against Mario Barrios, against, Brian Norman Jr. There, or against Iamana Stanionis. That's what he was looking for. He wanted to become an undisputed champion there in the welterweight division, and that was the thing. So here with this, being a little bit close to getting the unification bout, that is making Jaron Ennis get one step closer to becoming undisputed. You know what I'm saying? It says, Ryan Emmett, it says, hope Norman versus Ennis does happen so they can say Boots hasn't fought anyone when he stops Norman in 9 rounds. I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting battle. You know what I'm saying? You have Brian Norman. He's there at 26. No, he's young though at 23. 23 years old. What is he? I mean, he started at a very young age. What it was like around 17? Yeah, 17 years old, right? Was when he had his pro debut. So he's been fighting in the pros since 17, and had like a good number of fights building up there in Mexico. So definitely has a history in Mexico of building up wins and stuff like that before he is able to get some work over here in the U.S. But he's been getting up there in the rankings up until that point that he fought Giovanni Santillan, and a number of people felt like hey, Santillan was going to be there, the hometown fighter. He was the pretty significant favorite in that bout against Brian Norman Jr. Brian Norman did have that no contest in the in his previous fight against Janelson Bocachica. That one was a pretty gruesome little thing there. For the few rounds that it did take place. But even with that, Santillan was coming in there. Like say undefeated. Was very what was he, around like number 2 or number 1 there in the WBO rankings when he was facing Brian Norman Jr. So Norman was able to have the best fight of his life there in that particular bout, and was able to come through and get that stoppage victory, man. Yeah, man. Hey, like I said, on the fly, was able to observe what was going down there in San Antonio, and like I said, hey, by barely even having that much information, about the fighters, I was able to do what we did on the fly there, man. So yeah, thanks once again for giving me the opportunity there, brother Joe. There, but like I said, if I get this thing down, I still got to check that local affiliate there in San Antonio to see if they still have that full thing, full broadcast there, so that people will be able to check it out. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, back on the joint with there with the welterweight situation. You can check out what's been happening there with like I said, with YSM Sports Media. He's had multiple conversations there with Boots Ennis. He's had some conversations there with Brian Norman Jr., Brian Norman Sr. And also, like I was saying there with Brunch Boxing, had that one-on-one conversation there with Brian Norman Sr. That they're trying to get this thing going, get some interest generated, so that people will demand this fight. And we do also have like Brian Norman Jr. that's involved in social media as well. So they're trying to get this thing going to say, hey, if enough people are interested in this thing, then yeah, let's go ahead and pull it off. Now, Brian Norman Sr. did say on his conversation there with Matt of Brunch Boxing that Top Rank had no issues with having Brian Norman Jr. Being able to go out there and look for those unification fights, whether it's going to be against Boots Ennis or like maybe Iamana Stanionis or anything like that. They say, hey, go ahead and do that, because there was some talk about maybe Brian Norman Jr. being involved in the fight card that was, going to be November 8th in Norfolk, Virginia. But it's like one, with Keyshawn Davis being a headliner, you're there as a world champion. Maybe you don't likely get that much money. Being a co-featured bout, and then number two, the likely opponent that they would have probably offered for him for that first defense of the WBO title wasn't going to be all too good. You know what I'm saying? Y'all could, probably just go down the line as to, who are the contenders out there in the WBO rankings right now, So you did have that. And then also, the thing there with, Teofimo Lopez, they had the date, they had the venue right there at Madison Square Garden for Teofimo Lopez. And Teofimo Lopez was like, nah, I'm not interested. Not interested. So that was like a one and done offer by top rank to Teofimo Lopez for him to have that opportunity to fight for the WBO welterweight title. And, he was like, not interested. So that, opens the door for this potential fight to happen between Bruce Ennis and Brian Norman Jr. And I'm all for it. I mean, we can't get, or at least I can't get, Terrence Crawford versus Boots Ennis next. I mean, we ain't gonna get it. It's saying like Terrence Crawford is still, trying to see if he can get that Canelo fight. So a fight against Boots just ain't gonna happen. 147, 154 just ain't gonna happen. So I guess the next best thing here for Boots is to, go for those unification bouts here at 147. And this is a good start here with Brian Norman Jr. if he's able to pull that off. So that's the thing that we should go for. I mean, let's get these top welterweights in the ring sooner than later. Why not? And at least at this particular point, at least for me right now, Boots Ennis is the I guess the quote unquote A side in the welterweight division right now. That he could pretty much like host fights at his hometown or be the A side against any of these other champions that are out there. So why not just go ahead and start that run of see if you can collect all of those belts and become undisputed there in the 147-pound division and start here with Brian Norman Jr. So I say go ahead and make that happen. So we got to keep an eye out on what's going to go down there between those two parties. Like I said, I'm definitely up for that fight. Particularly, like I said, if it's going to be November 9th, going to be a lot of traveling there for me, with that weekend, man. Especially, if it's going to be like Thursday or especially Friday, Saturday. That's going to be crazy. That's going to be crazy. So we're going to see, what they're going to do as far as like having that go down here in the month of November, because like I said, there's going to be a lot of action there in November. Yeah, you do have, Joe says, they have another card over in San Antonio on November 23rd. So hey, maybe, you might be hearing me on the telecast there once again, November 23rd. So we'll see what happens with all that. We'll definitely see what happens with all that. But that's mainly what I had in reference to those that particular topic, that main topic. I know that we have some action that's coming up for the weekend. Starting off with OTX 10 overtime boxing, right? Overtime boxing, we have like a number of good fights that's going to be on this fight card. We have, two fights that involve fighters that are part of Coach Ronnie Shields' camp. One of them is Gustavo Rivera, and the other one is Andreas Katsarakis. Gustavo Rivera is there in the super featherweight division. He's going up against Carlos dos Santos Rocha, pretty much ain't saying his full name there, but that's still part of the card there on the zone, right? Also, I gotta check this though. Let me see something real quick. Oh yeah. So we're also gonna have Malik Montgomery there in the super featherweight division going up against Oscar Escandon. I think some of y'all fight fans are familiar with that name, Oscar Escandon. Yes, he has been an opponent for guys like Carlos Castro, Brandon Figueroa, King Tugsat Nyambayar, Gary Russell Jr., Moises Flores. So like almost like a who's who, out there within the 126 and up. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, Malik Montgomery, it looks like he would probably be highly favored in that bout against Escandon. Escandon is 27-7 right now. You know what I'm saying? Trill says November is Oxtail Appreciation Month. Hey, listen, we might be able to appreciate oxtails, but they come on, man. You know how expensive those is. You know how expensive oxtail is, though. But but the thing is, though, over in Texas, you can get some good oxtail, and the prices won't be all too bad. But over here on my side, man, listen, you might as well just forget about it over here on my side, man. So you good over there around Texas way. If you're able to get some oxtail, good oxtail dishes. They got like oxtail rotis out there too. So hey, might as well go to Texas if y'all can to get some good oxtail, because over here in this way, nah, man, it's way too much. All right, back to this thing here with that OTX 10. You got, like I said, Gustavo Rivera on there against Carlos Santos Rocha. You got Malik Montgomery versus Oscar Escandon. You have the tournament for that 154-pound division. You have the semifinals that'll be on this card, which includes Brandon Adams versus Francisco Verón in one semifinal, and Andres Katsarakis versus Robert Terry in the other semifinal. And was able to be over in the camp there where Andres Katsarakis was at. They're over in Texas. They're part of Coach Ronnie Shields' gym, so he was able to get a little bit of a workout there before heading over towards Atlanta, as we're just a couple of days away from that particular fight card that's on the zone. But that's going to be a very good fight there. Katsarakis versus Robert Terry, two undefeated fighters in that one. You have Katsarakis there at 13-0. You have Robert Terry at 12-0-1. And then, of course, you have Brandon Adams there with that record of 24-3 going up against Francisco Verón, who is 14-0-1. And, of course, you have Brandon Adams that was, had his, stint there in the 160-pound division there for a good little bit there. He had been bouncing from 160 now, down here 154. Was fought like Willie Monroe Jr. Fought, like I said, Jamal Charlo in 2019. But after that, he's had wins over Sergey Boychuk, which as y'all saw, Boychuk had his very close bout against Virgil Ortiz Jr. A few weeks ago, right? So definitely, with Brandon Adams, he's a very, very good fighter. There, like I said, he was part of this this tournament, was able to win in his last bout against Ismael Valario. Got a 3-round knockout victory there. So now he's going up against Francisco Verón in this one. It's going to be a good little scrap there. You know what I'm saying? A good little scrap between Verón and Brandon Adams there in one semifinal. And, of course, they have Andreas Katsarakis there, who had the win over Kudratil Abdulkakarov. And, some fight fans may have heard of Abdulkakarov there when he had his extended run there in the welterweight division. there before having his first loss to Cody Crowley in 2021, and then had another loss after that, but then ballooned up like from 146 to 167 pounds. So he had been going from welterweight all the way to super middleweight there before getting himself down to currently the super welterweight division, right? But had that loss to Andreas Katsarakis in a good little scrap between those two in that last OTX card that they had on May 31st. But now with Katsarakis, now he's going up against Robert Terry. And that's going to be a good one, a good scrap between those two there in that semifinal bout between those. And then headlining this particular card is Elijah Pierce versus Jose San Martin. Elijah Pierce is there, contending in the super bantamweight division. Y'all have, followed, the boxing source here. We've had multiple interviews with Elijah Pierce. He was supposed to, have this particular bout. What was it, a couple months ago? But he, ended up getting ill, so they had to scrap the bout at that particular time. So they had pushed it to this particular date of August 30th. So you're gonna have Elijah Pierce here at 19-2, going up against Jose San Martin at 35-8-1. And the thing there with Elijah Pierce, there in that super bantamweight division, he's rated as high as number 3 in the WBA. So he's looking to get himself in position to have a world title shot, by next year. So after this bout here on OTX, I don't know if he's gonna have another one here, at the end of the year. But going into 2025, he wants to have those real bouts against those highly ranked contenders out there at 122 pounds. He's talked multiple times about fighting Sam Goodman, and with Sam Goodman, of course, Sam Goodman was in position to fight Naoya Inoue. It was supposed to be coming up on Tuesday, but for some reason, Sam Goodman was like, not right now, I guess. So that's why you're gonna have Inoue going up against TJ Doheny on September 3rd, there in Japan instead of Sam Goodman. I'm like, you would have had that world title shot right then and there, Sam Goodman, and you just said, you know what? Nah, I ain't ready for all that right now. So that's why you're gonna have TJ Doheny there in position, and Doheny is number 2 in the WBO and number 6 in the WBA or whatever it is. But I mean, we know that Inoue is just gonna wash him. Inoue's gonna wash him. Like if this man, if Doheny, from by any stretch of the imagination, if Doheny ends up getting a win here over Naoya Inoue, that would be the biggest upset in boxing for about 10 years? I don't know, about 10 years or so. Because, man, I don't see any path of Doheny getting a win over Naoya Inoue. That just ain't gonna happen. I just don't see it, man. I just don't see it. Feel me? So with that being said, that's coming up, like I said, September 3rd. They're gonna have it on ESPN Plus. Man, early in the morning, probably what about like 10? What am I talking about? 5 a.m. Eastern time. There on September 3rd. That's when we'll pretty much have that opportunity to watch that fight live as part of the fight card. There you're gonna have Jin Sasaki that's gonna be on that. You're gonna have Ismael Barroso that's gonna be on there against Andy Hiraoka. That's gonna be a really interesting bout. And they say it's scheduled for 12 rounds. Undefeated Andy Hiraoka against Ismael Barroso, who, of course, y'all know, should have got that win over Rolando Romero. But we saw what Tony Weeks did in that fight. But you got Andy Hirooka there at 23-0 with 18 of those wins by way of knockout. And you got, of course, the heavy-hitting Israel Barroso with 25 wins and 23 of those wins by way of knockout. Yes, 4 losses and 2 draws, but still, hey, he could really punch. So that's going to be a really, really interesting bout there between Barroso and Andy Hirooka. Listen, I don't know how I'm gonna pull it off, but I want to see that. I want to see that fight too. I mean, these fights that they're gonna have here on September 3rd, like they ain't that bad. I mean, but you got to be able to keep up with a lot of these fighters over in Japan to like say, hey, you got, like I said, Hirooka's on here, Jin Sasaki is on there, Yoshiki Takei is on the card, Toshiki Shimamachi is on this card as well. So hey, you're gonna have a number of notable fighters from Japan that'll be included in this particular card there. Now, real quick, I mean, we got our guy that's joining us here. Of course, I mentioned him multiple times here with the main topic about Boots Ennis versus Brian Norman Jr., as he had a great conversation with Brian Norman Sr. So he's joining us here for a little bit to talk about that and more. It's our guy, Brother Matt of Brunch Boxing. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Jeff? First of all, that is a great shirt. That is a great freak shirt. I have the exact same shirt, actually. So that is a great shirt. Very stylish. But I heard you talking about this Naoya Inoue card on September 3rd. I am super excited for it. I think Inoue versus Doheny is going to be good while it lasts. I think, obviously, Doheny is going to come to fight. So I think it's going to be an exciting fight. But don't be surprised if Inoue gets dropped. But I think eventually he's going to beat Doheny and stop him. My favorite fight on the card personally is Andy Hirooka versus Ismael Barroso, because let's see if the old man could do it again. Let's see what the old man got. It is a great fight. It's a great card. I can't wait. 5:45 in the morning. ESPN's gonna have 2 of the fights, but I'm gonna be up 3 o'clock because I need to see the whole card. So
the whole card,
big time boxing is back. It's just happening in Japan.
Yeah, that's true, man. And it's just coming off of we're gonna be winding down from Labor Day, so we don't really have that much rest, and then just get right back up early in the morning to watch this particular card, man. So definitely looking forward to it, especially that one with that Ismael Barroso and Andy Hirooka there. They're in the super lightweight division, man. I'm kind of like intrigued that it's not necessarily. I don't think they say it's for that interim title that Barroso has. But I don't know.
It is for the interim title.
Okay.
They probably won't report it in the Japanese media because the Japanese Boxing Commission do not they don't recognize
interim titles.
Yeah, they don't recognize the title, but the WBA is listing it as a fight, and the winner is obviously going to be the mandatory for Rayo Valenzuela.
Yeah, well, for as much as that would mean,
November, at least till November,
right? So. But yeah, like I said, I mean that's still a very, very good scrap there that's gonna happen between those two. So I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot, So you had that, and then I mentioned a couple other notable fighters are there from Japan. Yoshiki Takei is going up against Daigo Higa on there. Jin Sasaki is on this card, and Toshiki Shimamachi is on this card as well. So it's going to be a good one over in Tokyo, Japan, for people to enjoy if they're here over in the States, if they're able to either get up real early or stay up late to check it out. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna get back on to that main topic there. Like I mentioned, you had the conversation there with Brian Norman Sr. On Twitter Spaces there, and he had a number of notable nuggets there that was talked about when it came to this potential bout between Boots Ennis and Brian Norman Jr. Now, I mean, we're kind of saying, hey, listen, we got about a couple more steps before this becomes official, but there were a couple of nuggets there from Brian Norman Sr. When it came to one particular promotional company, and two, a particular former fighter, now announcer there. So, could you kind of, sum up a couple of those nuggets that was on that particular interview there with Brunch Boxing?
Absolutely, I would love to. So for those who don't know what JR was hitting at was Top Rank. So obviously Top Rank. Brian Norman signed with them, but honestly, it seems like they're not feeling the love. They don't feel like the red carpet was rolled out as it is with most new signees. They kind of felt that they were thrown to the wolves, not in the sense of you're matching them tough, but in a sense of why does he have to go on the road to fight Giovanni Santillan, instead of maybe having that in Atlanta. They still haven't done an Atlanta fight yet. So it almost seems like they were basically trying to use him as a B-side cannon fodder kind of thing. And he
Mm-hmm.
has upset the apple cart. Now, that particular announcer, Tim Bradley, I know many people have seen the altercation with them that was online. I was actually in attendance when they had that little altercation in New York. That was at the Xander Zayas fight where they had a little altercation, one of their many altercations. I just think that Brian Norman Sr. feels like Tim Bradley has been unfairly attacking his son, basically to the point where it becomes personal. Because
Mm-hmm.
let's be honest, when we watch boxing telecasts, a lot of these announcers, they always big up what their fighter, their A side that they want to win is doing. Oh, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this, he's doing that. But from Brian Norman Sr.'s perspective, it seemed as if Tim Bradley was just saying everything that Brian Norman Jr. was doing wrong, and he had nothing good to say about him. So he confronted him about that, and I guess Tim Bradley did not like being pressed. But at the end of the day, Brian Norman Sr. is a father. He's going to have his sons back, and
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is with them. He respects Tim Bradley. He respects his career, but he thinks that Tim Bradley is basically a corny dude, and he was not shy about letting us know that.
Yeah, he was not shy about that at all. He was not shy about that at all. But like you said, there with Brian Norman Sr., there as a former fighter himself, like he's not gonna, back down from anybody. And if you have like a sharp, a harsh criticism of Brian Norman Jr., he's going to, basically confront you about that. And particularly with Tim Bradley being part of the top ranked telecast and being part of ESPN, that's like I said, the quote unquote worldwide leader of sports. You're going to have a large audience that's going to listen to, what Tim Bradley is saying, particularly against what he says about Brian Norman Jr. And that could, sway the opinions of people who look at Brian Norman Jr. in action. So, yeah, that was something there from Tim Bradley that was kind of like out of pocket or out of line. And yeah, Brian Norman Sr. had to
Definitely, yeah, I definitely see Brian Norman Sr.'s perspective, but I do also see Tim Bradley's perspective. He's just trying to be honest. But my criticism of Tim Bradley would probably be, well, when do you choose to be honest? Because for years they were bigging up Shakur Stevenson, Shakur Stevenson, Shakur Stevenson. He's this, he's that. Nobody wants to fight him. But
mhm.
when we knew that Shakur Stevenson's contract was coming up, all of a sudden on those telecasts, oh, he's too boring. He needs to do this. So for me, I would like to understand what when do you choose? Oh, now you're going to be completely honest, because all the other times it kind of felt like, at least to the viewers, that you weren't being completely honest. You were very complimentary of the A side. Now I will say I did sit like literally directly next to Tim Bradley in a production meeting. I do believe that he tries to shoot from the hip and say what he has on his mind from the heart. Honestly, the way he is on TV, good or bad, is the same exact way he is in a production meeting. You know, he's just going over the things he's going to talk about, and it gets heated in there because you'll have one guy saying, "Hey, we shouldn't say that," but Tim Bradley said, "Why should we not say that if it's true?" So I think there's a fine line between telling the truth and just making someone feel like you're attacking them personally. And I think
Well,
that in Brian Norman Sr.'s estimation, Tim Bradley crossed that line.
yeah. I mean, there could be multiple ways of telling the truth, and there'll be a way to deliver it. And if you kind of like get too harsh about it, then you'll get some type of backlash, or you're gonna get some type of response from it. But like you were saying there about Tim Bradley, there, whether it's like him and the production meetings there for Top Rank, or maybe you catch Tim Bradley there on the Pro Box TV videos. Like that Tim Bradley is kind of like what you kind of see is like where he shoots from the hip. Or if you like see some interviews of him outside of the ring, or before fights, then you kind of get what Tim Bradley's view of things are in most cases. So that kind of like is how we approaches a lot of topics there in boxing. And at least here in this particular instance with Brian Norman Jr., that kind of like tipped off Brian Norman Sr. And yeah, he's definitely going to let Tim Bradley know about it from this point forward. You know what I'm saying? Now, he also, Brian Norman Sr. also mentioned there that there was a lot of confusion going on in reference to the deal, if the deal could have been made already, because it was possible, like he was saying on his side, like they were ready, they were willing to make the deal, like right then and there, as far as like as long as they had the what was straight as far as like them fighting in Philadelphia, because they had something where they were saying, hey, you could have had the fight over in Vegas or something like that. And you compare that to having a fight in Philadelphia in Boot's hometown. So if they want to have it in Boot's hometown, they're like saying, hey, listen, we got to get a little bit more out of this if you're going to have us fighting in Boot's hometown. So, that was the thing that they were, kind of saying. And, they came back with a counter offer or whatever it is, and then went like a little bit back and forth, and then all of a sudden nothing, and then when that kind of like went through, a lot of confusion went around as far as like, oh, this party said this, or maybe they said, yo, they're turning down the fight or whatever it is, and now it's like a whole lot of confusion at this particular point. But we're about like a few months out from this potential date that they're going to have. So I still think that there's some good time for them to go ahead and make this deal happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But I'll be honest with you, I have a funny feeling that the deal is not going to end up getting done, at least next, because I'll be honest, I don't think Eddie Hearn wants to fight next. I think that Eddie Hearn was going to make the Karen, whatever his name is, fight. I thought that was the fight that he was going to make, and I think that that fight is going to be the excuse made for why this fight doesn't get done. At first, he tried to make the excuse, well, we made these offers to people and everyone didn't want to fight. But then Brian Norman Sr. heard that, say, hey, whoa, 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 we want to fight. What are we talking about here? And, Eddie Hearn, I'm not saying that he's like dishonest, but he never mentioned that there was a counter offer at first. That was something that came out, and then he had to admit that there was a counter offer that was sent by Team Norman. So, like, honestly, we just have to sit and wait until the odds on is true.
Yeah. Because it'd be very interesting if like did that particular fight falls through, and the thing with Karen kind of like gets rehashed, because I've heard multiple occasions that Boots is like saying, no, we're not fighting Karen again. Like there's no reason to fight Karen again. And that's directly from them. So if Eddie kind of like entertains that idea, that's pretty much gonna be coming from Eddie and Matchroom. But I'll be interested to see how that like comes about if that comes up, because Boots has said multiple times like there's no reason for him to fight Kieran again, even if it's another fight at Wells Fargo Center. Like there's no reason to have that fight again. And I don't know what it is with the IBF, but I don't know how they had Karen Chikazian ranked up there at number one to begin with, because a couple of fights that he's had, like I don't see like why they would have him at number one with the wins that he had ever since his loss to Boots Ennis in 2023. Even with the last victory that he did have against Harry Scarf, like Harry Scarf, like what is that? You know what I'm saying? So there's basically that, man. Shout out to just
they should have made him fight some eliminators. Why not order him to fight like a Jin Sasaki or whoever else is in your ranking? So at least we can feel better about the fight when he beats someone of note. For him to immediately get another title shot, that honestly, that just shows not only how thin the IBF rankings are, but how wrong they are. Like, why isn't Rashidi Ellis in their rankings? Why not let him fight Rashidi Ellis or something like that to earn a boot shot? There's so many things that could have been done to where maybe we might feel better about a potential Cameron rematch if we felt like he did something to earn it. But none of that took place, and the first fight sucked. So we have no reason to think that this fight is going to be any better, and we don't care to see it, because listen, the fight sucked, but Boots won clearly. I mean, I didn't have him losing a round. Like, so it is what it is. It just so happened that he couldn't knock him out and he didn't look good doing it, but he didn't lose any rounds. So why the hell do we need to see this again?
Right, exactly. And the thing is, like, to your point, as far as like getting to that position of number one, like at least you could have fought like a Jin Sasaki or like a what was it, Lewis Crocker or something like that, or even a Nicholas Floss, who has had some impressive wins on Pro Box here over the past couple of events. So like you could have had Karen fight one of those guys. You know what I mean? So why not have him do that in order to get that number one spot, but just go ahead and name him number one? Like that doesn't make any sense, one. But also though, too, right? This is the other thing that would make it pretty interesting there for Matchroom, right? They have Jaron Ennis, of course, as the IBF champion. But they also have like another contender out there in Gearsov. But it looks like they're trying to position him to, I guess, maybe get a fight with Iamana Stanionis there for the WBA, as Gearsov is number one in the WBA. But like, I don't see like where like any position where Chikazian would kind of like be at number one at this particular point. So that just didn't make that much sense to me. You know what I mean?
And if anything, they should have been trying to make Boots versus Gearsov if they really wanted another contender, at least somebody that we haven't seen. I just think we're seeing what Eddie Hearn always, this is not about Eddie Hearn. Let's just make the fucking fight happen, Boots versus Norman.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. I'll have to make a phone call or something and say, hey, man, just have him say, you know what? It's me versus Brian Norman and nobody else. Like, don't like how you have Errol Spence Jr., right? Like after the fight against Yordenis Ugas, he said nobody except Terrence Crawford. Then Boots Ennis should, I guess, say, you know what? Nobody unless it's Brian Norman, and just leave it at that. So I guess that's what it's gonna have to take there for us to, I guess, try to get that fight made there. November 9th out there in Philadelphia. But yeah, that would be something that they were able to pull that off, because November 8th they already got things locked down for Keyshawn Davis versus Gustavo Lemos over in Norfolk, man. Hey, if they don't necessarily have Boots versus Norman there for November 9th. I guess you might have to make the trek down to Norfolk for this one then, man.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to listen. I respect Derrick Cuevas, but I don't want to see when we have this great unification on the table. I don't want to see anything else, and I think that boxing fans should not accept anything else.
Yeah, and I know that Brian Norman Sr. didn't even want to mention his name, and it's pretty understandable. You know what I'm saying? So why even entertain that or put it in the atmosphere, so to speak. So just not even think about that particular fight, and then just go ahead with what's going on and see if they can get the unification bout going down. But it would make it interesting for that Norfolk card, because if you're gonna have Keyshawn Davis versus Gustavo Lemos, I don't know who would they try to put in there in the co-feature. If it's gonna be what I would say, maybe because that'll be too soon for our guy there, man. Like who else could they have on there? Let's see. Well, of course he's going to have Kelvin Davis on the card. There. You're also going to have a couple other fighters that will be there in the air from the area that'll be included on there. So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to fill out that particular card for Top Rank then, if that's the case.
If the Norman fight falls through on that card and he's fighting Boots, I think they should just go ahead and make Abdullah Mason the co-feature, because they do plan on having Abdullah Mason main event a card in 2025 in his hometown. So my thing is, you should want to put him in a prime spot before that, so that people could get used to seeing him as, hey, wait, maybe this guy's a big deal. He's the co-feature. So I think if you put him as the co-feature and he does what he does, like gets this guy out of there, I think that is going to boost the excitement for his homecoming fight in Cleveland. And then you can make a nice matchup, maybe him against a George Kambosos or something, and maybe bring Jared Anderson back on that card as the co-feature.
Yeah, you could do that either with George Kambosos Jr. there. You could also maybe have who else could be out there for him? Shoot,
Hughes,
Hughes.
maybe Abel Mendoza.
Well, they said maybe Lucas Vadi, Abel Mendoza. Yeah, that could also happen. You know what I'm saying? So, or no, he ain't gonna. Even though he's still ranked in the WBO, Miguel Madueño. Like they're gonna
he might injure. He might injure Mason. He's a little bit too
rough.
He's a little bit too dirty. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit too dirty there. Yeah. So that might not be a good look there on that particular part. So we definitely want to see more there from our guy Abdullah Mason. You also could have Troy Isley on there. I've also heard that you could potentially have Lorenzo Truck Simpson on that fight card there. That would be interesting. Truck Simpson is able to be fit in on that fight card. That was what I got there a couple of days ago. While I was out in Houston, I was able to talk with Truck Simpson out there. He said he has something coming up. They're trying to fit him in that Red Owl boxing card on September 6th, and then it gets through that. Then he'll get back out there on November 8th there for that fight card over in Norfolk, Virginia there. So that's going to be a pretty interesting card. But we had like a lot of things coming up here on the schedule, man. Matt, you got anything as far as like what could potentially happen out here in the boxing world?
It is a bit of a slow boxing week, but one thing that I find very interesting is that the WBO did make that reorder of Terence Crawford versus Sebastian Fundora. But the caveat is that the fight has to take place no later than December 31st, 2024. So I
Mhm.
know a lot of people automatically assume that Fundora is going to vacate that title. But what makes you guys think that Samson Lukowicz is not going to call Crawford's bluff? Because I don't think Crawford is coming back this year. So I think if they say, hey, all right, know what, let's get this fight done, Crawford.
Uh-oh.
I
Are we cutting in and out? Or it looked like he was cutting in and out there. I don't think. Well, he like see if he could, get connected there once again, right? Y'all go into what the WBO had. Like they posted here today with that mandatory championship contest. They say like I guess they want to go ahead and enter this thing here with negotiations. The parties have 30 days to issue the notice and reach an agreement for that super welterweight championship contest. And if nothing is reached within that 30 days, the purse bid will be ordered. You know, now we like I've had a conversation there with the promoter for Sebastian Fundora and Samson Lukowicz, and at that time he was talking about saying, hey, we want to see if we could work a deal, get a deal going there with Terence Crawford. But as I mentioned before, and I mentioned this multiple times, and it was on record, from Turkey LLC, that Terence Crawford is only interested in a bout with Saul Canelo Alvarez. Nothing mentioned about fighting Sebastian Fundora. Nothing mentioned about no what was it, Virgil Ortiz or Tim Tszyu or nothing like that. It was like Terence Crawford. It was almost like a Canelo or nothing. So hey, to Matt's point, hey, I think that Samson Lukowicz should go ahead and call the bluff there from or for Terence Crawford and say, hey, this is what we got going on. This is hey, we want to enter negotiations. Let's see what happens here. But
I agree with that 100%. The funny thing about it is that why would Sebastian Fundora want to vacate his title when if Terence Crawford really does fight him in 24? First of all, Terence Crawford didn't look great at 154. His power didn't carry at 154, and Sebastian Fundora could hit. So I don't see why Sebastian Fundora wouldn't want that fight in 2024 when he could walk away with 3 titles. You know,
yeah,
maybe they could make that Crawford fight. Maybe Errol Spence takes a tune-up instead, and could be like a co-feature on that card and take a tune, and then he'll be set up if Fundora is victorious to fight Fundora. I don't see any way that Fundora, Samson Lukowicz are gonna relinquish that WBO title because it just doesn't make sense for them when it comes to leverage. Listen, a worst case scenario, it goes to purse bid, and then what? Maybe a Turkey out of Sheik bid or like seriously overbids for, and what? Fundora's gonna get a lot more money than he thought he was. I don't see any downside to Sebastian Fundora seeing this process through.
now it's interesting, the reading the letter there from Luis Salas there from the championship committee. And the thing about it is that you have, where it says section 14, because it deals with super champion or whatnot there. But the thing about it is like the way that the split is going, it's like I'm not all too sure how that's going to go, because is either party going to agree to a 20% split there if a purse bid does take place. So yeah, I don't understand it. And then to your point,
No, they're not going to agree to the 20% bid, but what they're going to do is they're going to do the same thing they did with Shakur Stevenson, where they took the last three purses and
yeah,
then they extrapolate a percentage from that. Now, here's the thing. These are the last three reported purses. So that includes Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence, where his guarantee wasn't so crazy, but he made a lot of money on the back end. And
mhm,
Porter Place for the California fight was not that high either. So
yeah,
I
it was
think
only
though, yeah,
2.5 million.
exactly. So this percentage split is going to be crazy in Crawford's favor. I think maybe it's going to end up being somewhere between like 60 or 55-45 in favor of Crawford.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it could be. So, hey, Samson, go ahead and pursue that fight. Call the bluff. You know what I'm saying? You could be, say, hey, we could potentially have a unification bout right here, or you just go ahead and see what happens if Sebastian Fundora ends up having a fight with who knows. And I'm not talking about Errol Spence. I still have that wild card, y'all. I'm still putting up that wild card because the WBC still has Jamel Charlo as the champion in recess. So Charlo says, hey, I'm getting back in the ring this year. He has first dibs on that WBC belt. So now what happens then in that particular situation? That's the thing that I'm watching out for. That's what I'm watching out for. Feel me? But yeah, that's mainly what I had on that tip. We had, like I said, from what I mentioned a couple days ago, David Morrell Jr. is slated to get back in the ring December 21st. Vito Mielnicki Jr. has a fight date for September 27th, and also on December 7th as well. So be on the lookout for more information in reference to those two fighters coming up here as the days pass by. But that's what I mainly have here for this edition of the Midweek Report. Once again, y'all go ahead and follow Matt of Brunch Boxing. Y'all check out brunchboxing.com there. Also, our website, theboxingsource.net. I will be updating the pound for pound rankings a little bit here because it's been over a month since the last time I updated the rankings, but we're gonna see if we have maybe a little change or maybe it stays the same or something like that. But we're gonna be doing something there with the Boxing Source pound for pound rankings. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I have here on this front. You got of course Brunch Boxing scheduled for this upcoming Saturday. There, so y'all be on the lookout for that. He should have a scheduled interview here. Hold on, who did you say that you had here? What was it, Michael Angeletti? Right?
Yeah, I got Michelangelo at 3 p.m. Eastern time on Brunch Boxing because he did win his Pro Box TV fight last week, unanimous decision dominant. And he is one of the guys that someone within PBC identified to me as the future. So it was a little weird to me to see him on Pro Box with PBC. So I'm actually very curious as to what his promotional situation is and if we could see him back with the.
Right. Yeah. We'll see if he gets any dates there within, or if either TGB or Heyman Boxing has something there worked out for him here in the near future. But like I said, I mean, we see we've seen a number of these fighters that have been involved with either PBC things or whatnot that were on Pro Box. I mean, we just saw that thing there with Jared Hurd and Jason Rosario on that same fight card there last Wednesday. So we got to see what's up with Michael Angeletti. Maybe he might he might get back in there on the potential PBC card at the Armory there in Minneapolis. That will be scheduled for December 21st or whatnot. Maybe that's
you know what I want to see for him, and I'm gonna when I speak to him tomorrow. We have another fighter that was on Pro Box recently. He's gonna be on Gary Antonio Russ. They're both at 118. Why not see? If they're going to be a Pro Box, build a Pro Box TV main event between Michael Angeletti and Gary Antonio, which I think is an excellent fight, very interesting fight.
Yeah, that would be an excellent fight. That would really be an excellent fight there at 118. So we got to see if we're going to be able to set that up there within 118. But yeah, like I said, y'all be sure to tune in, or just log in to the Twitter Spaces there tomorrow with Brunch Boxing with Michael Angeletti. I am also working on getting something set up with the Candyman John Easter there. So I don't know if y'all have something. I don't know if it's going to be live like late tonight, or if I have something and then post it on the Boxing Source YouTube channel later on down the line. But I will have scheduled a conversation there with John Easter so that y'all be able to check that out here as well. But we'll have more content for you here on the Boxing Source. Once again, y'all go ahead and check out Brunch Boxing. Shout out to my guy Just Do Boxing in the building. Also, y'all check out Just Do Boxing. You got brother Joe Heron of War Week Radio. Yeah, and I'll see if I could get that broadcast from San Antonio last weekend, where I was one of the commentators on that fight card. So I'll see if I'll be able to share that link on social media if possible. So once I get that, I'll be able to share that on social media as well. But that's it for this edition of the Midweek Report. Hey, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.